And we're going to simulate a ransom letter from the old times. I've also seen this kind of a transformation be called like sarcastic mode. So however you want to think of it, given some input text, we're going to randomly capitalize the letters in there. And this is very much like some of the other programs that we've created. Howler uppercased all the text. Here we're going to be going through each one. So Jumper also encoded the numbers as some other number. Here we're going to basically encode each character as a random upper or lower case. And because we're going to be using the random module to do this, we're going to accept a seed argument so that we can reproduce this and test our program. The text could either come to us directly on the command line, or it might come from a file. So we've seen this pattern a few times. And so let's just, I think it might be best just to get started here with, we're going to jump into our Ransom directory here. And I want to say new py, and it's going to be called ransom.py. And we are going to overwrite this with a fresh version that we're going to write from scratch. And it's going to be, let's see, create a ransom note. It's going to be the purpose of the program. And here, I'll put this here. And it's going to take some sort of text. We don't know what that's going to be, if it's going to be directly from the command line or from a file, so we can only say it's going to be input text or file will be fine. And we don't need a string option, but we do need an integer option for the seed value. And when you're writing your own programs, I'm going to call this random seed value. You are welcome to use strings as your seed. I've written this to expect integer values, so we're going to stick with using an int here. I'll call the metavar seed, and the default is going to be none, which will mean, so this means that if argument is provided, it must be parsable as an integer. But if it's not provided, then the option is going to be none, which is the same as not setting the seed at all. So that's all the program is going to require is two parameters. One is a positional argument for the text, and the other is an integer value for the seed. I'm going to get rid of these other options here, and that should be fine. Negative values are fine for seed, so we're not going to worry about that. Let's start off by printing args.text, and if we run this ransom and we say foo, it should say foo, and then if we give it inputs fox, it's going to be printing input fox because we haven't yet handled the case where input is coming from a file. We've seen that many times. So what we need to do is you can either handle that here in the main. I prefer to handle it in the get args just because I feel like it's something having to do with getting the arguments and validating them and transforming them in a way that's useful for my program. So I'm going to put it here. You're welcome to put it wherever you feel like makes the most amount of sense for you. I'm going to intercept my arguments here. Before I forget, I'm going to say return args. And now I need to say if it's true that the os path.isFile function returns true for the arguments.text, then I'm going to overwrite args.text to be opening the args.text as a file and then reading it, and then that is going to return a string that might have a new line stuck on the end, so I'm going to call the rstrip string method on that resulting string. And now when I run this from an input file, it shows the contents of that file and not the name of the file. So that pretty much gets our program started. We have a text, we have a seed. So the other big thing here is that before we do anything, we want to say random seed is going to be set to whatever is the seed value. So that is the way your program should basically start, and that's what I get you here. And so I'd like you to go From here, we need to talk about how we can mutate the text. Now, this is something we've talked a lot about, the fact that strings, this is a string value in Python, and strings are not directly mutable. So we need to figure out how we're going to do that. So we'll talk about that in the next section.